Hello, welcome to my presentation of what I want in the Queen of the Damned season. I'm Scorpia, and I have a lot of opinions. Also, it's past midnight right now, so this may influence my opinions or may not. And I'm obsessed with vampires. I've read the Vampire Chronicles when I was a child and absolutely loved them. And I'm obsessed with vampires. Again, have I mentioned that before? I think I did. Well, good. Now, the first thing I want is Daniel and Armand. I think that is not a surprise. But mainly, I want Daniel and Armand on the Night Island. But very precisely, I want young Daniel, Luke, and I want Eric on the island. Both. Not at the same time, because that would make fucking sense. But what I mean by that is, I want them in a kind of like flashback way, you know? So my theory is maybe Armand and Daniel flee because of Akasha. They flee to their safe haven. What is their safe haven? Yes, it's the Night Island. And then we see some backstory of, Daniel and Armand being at the Night Island before. And how that would fit in the timeline is actually quite easy. So, for every book lover, you're going to love this. We have the chase of Daniel and Armand about like 5 years long, which is longer than in the books. So, between 1975, 1975, I think that's it. I'm really bad with numbers in English. To the 1980s, we have the chase, and what follows after that is the relationship. Maybe about 10 years long. That would be fire, and it would fit the books, you know? And after that, Armand kind of like deletes Daniel's memories again, because he's just that kind of a guy. We have like the whole stalking thing of him interfering on Daniel's behalf, because he didn't mention anything about the 80s when he had his little monologue with Daniel, right? So we need that. I want to see it. Mention that. Oh, yeah. And obviously, Daniel's turning. And more Devil's Minion. Yeah, no comment. I also want Akasha, the queen. I want her backstory. Maybe even like a full episode on it. But I know we could like make it into an episode with the twins. We will get into that. I also want her using feminism to manipulate women. Now, Akasha isn't a feminist. I made a video about it. Thank you for all of your amazing comments. I love that. Feel free to leave like a comment here too, by the way. But I want Akasha using feminists to kind of like get to her point, because she's evil and she doesn't support women. But I think she would definitely use women in that way. And this would be my reaction if I could see it. Is I want to see more of the Lestat's dynamics, and by that I mean, of course, Lestat, but also more of Armand and Lestat. You know, because I think season 3 was kind of short on this. And Sam Reed agrees. Just please address why Lestat said that Nikki cut off his own hands. Because I get it. But also I don't get it. Because it was Armand. And, well, why? Did Lestat lie? And I think this was on purpose. Like, why would they change such an important detail if not on purpose? You know? They're playing the long run. I know it. So, please explain that to me. Also, this is going to be a surprise. I want more Marius and Lestat. Because there was a lot of talking about how Marius was like this very huge mentor for Lestat, which I agree. And I hate Marius, you know? I think that's like, you know. And when I think of Marius, I right now think about unworthy, and I think that's very funny. So, I want to see more of that, you know? Oh, and I also want Lestat being fucking afraid of Akasha. Because they do really have this interesting dynamic in the books, and how Akasha is kind of like obsessed with him, because of course she is. And I really want to see how afraid he is of her, because he is really afraid of her in the book. You know, he has like a visual reaction to her. And yes, he's also like kind of obsessed with her blood, because he like drinks a lot from her, and vampire blood is just like a drug, which I love. Yeah, so I want to see that. Sam is such an amazing actor, especially at like portraying the emotional side of Lestat. And we've seen it even before season 3, episode 6, you know? But this pain and him being so afraid, I had a visual reaction to that, okay? Not that kind of reaction, but, you know, still. And the next point is other things I want, because I'm really uncreative. Anyway, I want the complete backstory of the twins. Now, what I wish the most is if we could get more episodes, maybe even 10 episodes. You know, that would be great. And maybe we could add Akasha's backstory together with the twins. That would make sense, you know, because they are kind of connected. Not just kind of, they are. So I would really like that. But I also wouldn't mind getting like a whole episode of just the twins. since they're also like really important. Next point is I want more of Armand's backstory. And I've seen online this photo of the actors. And well, I want to throw up because the height difference is actually insane. And like Assad is a tall guy, And well, I know there are a lot of people who are like really excited about seeing Armand being in pain. And I'm not one of these. Like, he's my baby. I don't want him to be in pain. But I do think it's very important to explore his background a bit more, because what we got so far, although is kind of accurate in a lot of ways, there's still a lot of things missing. And I think exploring the relation between Marius and Armand is really important. We've seen that in the Vampire Armand book. It's a very important thing to have. Also, such a fucked up move from like Lestat, knowing that Armand's maker is freaking alive and never telling Armand, which I get why he didn't tell her, because it was also like a really traumatic event for him. And he kind of hates Armand in the series, so I get it. But also like, dude, Next one is I want more of Jess and the Telemaska. Please explain me why the fuck do the Telemaska people want the Great Conversion? I watched the Telemaska series and I liked it at first, and then people started like pointing out all the things that are wrong with it, and I see that. I see what is wrong with it. Yeah, I still had a lot of fun watching the Telemaska show. I'm sorry. I never read like the Witching Hour and the May for Witches. I will soon. They're just really thick books. So I think in the Witching Hour and in the May for Witches, you have way more with the Telemaska. So maybe I'm missing some really like important stuff. I really should read them. Did you read them? You people watching it, please tell me, what did you think of it? Next thing, Pandora. Also Bianca, but I didn't put it on the list, but I want them both. And I also want Bianca hating on Marius. And when we see more of Armand's backstory, we could also see more of Pandora and Bianca. Like it would all make sense. Full circle moment. I want to talk about Gabriel's identity. Because it was just addressed in like 1 or 2 lines. And as a person who on one hand really despises what Gabriella does, on the other hand, it's a very important character for me. It helped me through a lot of shit, especially the trans mask identity part, and I would identify Gabriella as trans mask. With everyone, if you haven't read the books, there's just this huge part about her being like more seen as a man and her not identifying as a woman. And I feel a little bit weird using female pronouns, but whatever, fuck that. I think the books use female pronouns too. I really need to reread the Vampire Lestat. It's been like ages. This huge part just about Gabriella's identity, and I think it wasn't really addressed enough in the show. I don't mind the looks and the hair. It's fine. I like that they added the part of the hair cutting off, but I feel like there needs to be more exploring of it. And I also feel like Lestat isn't always the most supportive of that identity. So maybe it was just Lestat's point of view and him kind of like struggling with seeing his mom in that way. What's your opinion? Please tell me your opinion about that, because I really struggle with it. There are things you can criticize about this season, and I've seen a lot about it, and I'm still figuring out how much of it I want to tell the internet, because I do have a lot of thoughts about it, and it's just very difficult for me to put it all together in one video. So please, let's have a conversation about it, right? Anyway, girl who is going to be okay, girl who is not going to be okay. Yeah, here are some more notes. I trust Hannah with the show. Okay, I've seen a lot of people, like especially on Tumblr, but also like I've seen some mention of X. I'm not on X because fuck that, but I've still seen some reaction. And what the fuck? What the fuck, people? Like, stop with the sexism and stop with the anti-Semitic. Yes, anti-Semitic. Like, I'm really serious. And I also feel like people are talking a lot of shit without any proof. What the fuck? And people are so weird. So fucking weird. Stop it. And besides that, I just hope that some fans will like chill a bit. Is that controversial? Because I feel like sometimes, and we've really seen that with season 3, people are like really judgy really fast. So, for example, the episodes came out and everyone was like freaking out and like, oh, why isn't that thing happen? Why is that thing happen? Why isn't that thing happen? And I totally get being dissatisfied with this season. There are again so many valid points that annoyed me a little bit too, besides just Gabrielle's identity. But for example, a huge part was the episodes came out of Armand doing his little apology tour, and then everyone was like, oh, why didn't he go to Louis? Why didn't he do that? And I'm like, guys, chill. Maybe he will go to Louis soon, and he did. So I hope the showrunners and Hannah are doing the long run. I think they did definitely with season 1 and 2, so there was great payoff in season 2. I feel like they're going to do it again, so I just want to be optimistic and just trust them. I don't think Interview with the Vampire or The Vampire Lestat or The Queen of the Damned, in this case more like season 1, 2, and 3, is a perfect series. There are things you can criticize and really valid things. Sometimes I think people online are like really harsh, really fast, and they are really judgy really fast. And I get it if you're really passionate about it. I am too. Again, I'm obsessed with vampires. I have a whole fucking fan wall with mainly vampires behind me. I have so many vampire books in my shelf, my bookshelf. So I get it. Yes. So please be a little patient. I think that the people working on the show are really passionate too. At least most of them. I know not everyone will agree to this, but I really believe that. Roland is really passionate about this. The actors are really passionate about this. So I don't know. Let's all chill a little bit and wait and talk about it. I hope this is not too controversial. Yeah. Anyway, and I need more diverse minion. Have I mentioned that before? What are your opinions? Please tell them to me. I will be waiting for your opinions. Thank you for watching this video. It's really nice. This takes a lot of time, and it's just very fun. And bye.